Biden and Kamala Harris have vowed to take away your Second Amendment rights through gun bans, gun confiscation, and government regulations. Now, Joe Biden is no longer hiding his real intentions, and we need you to take action now.
Whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things. But
the Biden administration is coming after your right to own any gun. Joe Biden has already issued executive orders.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm trying to get things straightened out here. Dan Waz, who's usually here on Wednesdays, is having technical difficulties connecting, and so we'll bring him in if we can get him connected. But anyway, let's get started here. I need to connect. And I usually have this ready to go. I'm sorry. Fine. There we go. And now I should be able to see your comments and get them up on the air. So today is obviously 17th of November, a month behind times now. But little bit of news today, nothing earth-shattering, and as of 30 minutes ago when I started doing all the clicking for the show and getting all the streams and everything lined up, there had not yet been a verdict come through in the Rittenhouse trial. That is something honestly, it concerns me a little bit. Coffee, man, makes the world go round. It concerned me a little bit because I thought that we were going to get a fairly quick verdict in this case. What I've heard on social, and I've got no way to substantiate this, I've only seen it on social media posts and nothing from a news source that I trust. I've heard it posted, I've seen it posted multiple times. There are two jurors that are holding things up because they're worried about their safety and their family's safety if they find him not guilty. That's the rumors going around. I have absolutely no substantiation to that. So don't take it as gospel coming to me. Take it as a rumor, an unsubstantiated rumor, which is really all it is. I want to remind you, if you want to get your comments in, go ahead and pop your comments into either the Facebook or the YouTube channel, video, and we'll get them in. The first story I wanted to talk about with you today, and that is, oops, that's the wrong button. That's the button I want. But Pennsylvania House passes bill to conceal carry without a permit. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. This is the House. I do not believe it's made it through the Senate. It did make it through the Senate. It's now going to the governor's desk. Again, this is a little bit of theater, and now I see Dan come in. Let me go ahead and bring him into the conversation. Dan, I can see you. Can I hear you?
I hope so. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, no worries at all. No worries. I could see you trying to get logged in. And I explained to the audience we were having technical difficulties getting you in. So, but anyway, I went ahead and, as you can see, I'd started already. Basically, the first story I wanted to talk about was Pennsylvania. Wow, now I'm getting my voice blasting back at me. There we go. Pennsylvania House passed a bill. It had already cleared the Senate. It's now going to Governor Wolf's desk, making permitless carry the law of the land in Pennsylvania. what's going to happen is Pennsylvania needs a new governor before this becomes law, because Wolf has said he's going to veto it. And Wolf is a lame duck. He's term limited out. He cannot run again, and his term ends at the end of 2022, I believe.
Well, a lot of this is happening. You know, there's a lot of these states doing the same thing. We have the case in New York, and so there's a lot of positive movement in the way of constitutional carry. You know, permitless carry. The New York City may, hopefully, if we win the New York City case, we go from may issue to shall issue. So this is all good stuff. I hope we can get some of this through, because if we can get one state to do this, it kind of sets a little bit of momentum and precedence for other states to jump on board.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting comments galore coming in, and most of them are about the Rittenhouse case. And I mentioned before you were able to connect that we still don't have anything back from the jury yet, and that I was concerned because I thought it would be relatively quick. I've heard rumors, I've seen Facebook posts, but I've seen nothing substantiated that there are two jurors holding up the process because they are concerned for their safety and the safety of their families. I sincerely hope that's not the case. If it is, honestly, this needs to be instant mistrial with prejudice, that meaning they cannot bring the charges again.
Absolutely. I thought that they were waiting last night because crowds started to gather. I thought that they were really just waiting for the morning to read the verdict, because if they did it last night, there may have been, you know, riots and stuff. And then today we find out that, I guess, another piece of evidence, another video, was brought into the case for the jury to view. And if you notice, right when they stopped everything today, everybody left the courtroom, and the jury was left alone to watch these new videos. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the videos were. I think it was a drone video, and I think there was a discrepancy because it was enhanced, enlarged, and possibly pixelated to the point where it could give the wrong kind of impression. So that's why the prosecution was pushing for it so hard, and the defense was trying to not let it enter the case. But apparently, it looks to me like it's like they just viewed it not too long ago, and you know, I mean, hopefully we have a verdict tomorrow morning, and hopefully it's pouring rain out.
Yes.
You know, and so and as far as the jurors being threatened, I don't put it past these radical lefties. I really don't. I mean, they learned that they can get their way by kicking and screaming and causing damage. So why wouldn't they do it in this case? The good news is that the riot, the protesters are not funded by larger organizations. They're not. It doesn't seem like like in 2020 there were riots popping up all over the country because it was choreographed. It was funded. People were bussed in by the Democratic Party and by Soros and whoever is funding this stuff. This time, it doesn't look like any of that is happening. So anything that happens will be organic, riots, protests, or whatever. So I don't think it'll amount to as much as we saw like in 2020.
I from your lips to God's ears, man. I hope that I don't want anything like that to happen again. That was scary. I mean, we even had a riot, a very tiny one, because the governor sent in the National Guard and the mayor deployed them here in Sioux Falls last May. I hope nothing like that ever happens again. Let's get some comments in. Roderick says there's also a clear uncompressed video the prosecution had the defense had not seen. I've seen reports of that too, and that's part of the reason that the defense has filed for a mistrial. Charlie Chambers says praying for an ice storm in Kenosha. That would work.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie. Yeah, that's about that's about the only thing that'll keep him in the house. Jeez. Yeah, you know there's something's going to happen. And as far as this video being brought in at the last minute, I'm not sure how that even happens, but that goes beyond my scope of law for them to bring that in. I really don't understand it. It doesn't look good, though. I mean, if the prosecution is pushing for something like this at the last minute and they get it, well, it certainly doesn't look very good.
Yeah,
because I'm afraid that it's that it is enhanced and it is possibly altered.
Yeah, and it's so hard. I know how to use the technology. I know how to I can put a show on. I can use the software to broadcast, but I have no idea. You could show me two videos. I could not tell you which one is altered and which one isn't if they're done well enough.
Yeah. Well, there was an expert on the stand, and they were talking about this, and what happens when you enlarge something digitally. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, there are voids. They're pixelated voids that need to be filled. So I guess the digital process is to add color where there is none, where there's nothing. So what it's going to do is it's going to pick color from pixels
that surround it. Yeah.
Or surround it, right, exactly. That just surround it. And with something like this, when you're talking about somebody holding a rifle far away, and you can enhance this thing and enlarge it and pixel it, I could see that you could potentially view it differently than it actually is. Like maybe that rifle would look like it's pointed in a different direction or whatever. And that's what the defense is scared of, and I don't think it should be brought in.
No, I'm not an attorney, and I don't even know enough to comment on what you're on this. I just from everything I have been able to see in the videos I've been able to watch, it is so clear cut self-defense that I cannot believe it's gone this long. I want to get a couple comments in here. Amanda Suffolk says Lori Blackwell lives near. She's reported Minneapolis license plates are showing up in the area. Lots of them. That does not bode well, Dan.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Hi, Amanda.
And she also said the issue is the video resolution was different in the copies given to different folks. Defense was not given the HD version, and that is, that's from the little tiny amount of legal I know, that's called discovery. The defense is supposed to be supplied everything that the prosecution has. So,
yeah, another thing that I'm kind of worried about is a mistrial would mean that the defense, I think, and anybody out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that would give the defense a do-over, and they want a do-over, which is why, or I'm sorry, the prosecution, I'm going to correct myself. I think the prosecution wants a mistrial because they want a do-over. And they were, if you noticed earlier on the trial, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, the prosecution was really, they were being belligerent and they were taking liberties that they shouldn't have. And I think, and there was a lot of talk about it, that they were trying to get a mistrial because they know that their own witnesses were testifying on behalf of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Some of the things they said. I mean, what's his name? Grosskreutz or whatever his name is, Gage or whatever, the one that got his bicep shot off. He even said, he was questioned, and the defense attorney said, so it wasn't until you pointed your gun and advanced toward Mr. Rittenhouse that he shot you. And he said, correct.
Yes.
That was the end of it. That was the end of the case. I can't even believe it's continued on even further. So, of course, they want a mistrial so they can do it again and hopefully not make the same mistakes.
The danger is for them is a mistrial with prejudice, which means it cannot be brought again. When I had my problems in Nebraska and the charges were dropped with prejudice, meaning they could not be brought again. I could have come out 30 minutes later with a full confession and they couldn't have charged me with the same crimes. And by the way, I didn't, because I didn't do anything wrong, but...
Well, that's the key. The prejudice part is the key. So, of course, the prosecution would fight against that. But,
yeah,
we're going to see. Everybody's on pins and needles tonight. And, because this means a lot. This is about a kid, too. I mean, we can't forget Kyle. I mean, the kid was out there trying to do good for the community. And he was just 17 years old. And you can tell, you saw him crying on the stand. This kid, I wouldn't want to go through that. I don't know how a 17 or 18-year-old kid can handle that. So it's about Kyle, primarily, but it's also about the Second Amendment. They want to prove self-defense wrong. They want to demonize self-defense, and this case would do it for them if they win. However, if Kyle is not guilty, I think it's gonna be a huge boost for the awareness of self-defense.
Agreed. And a lot of people, myself included, call Kyle a kid. He's an adult legally now, but when I look back on myself at 17, 18, all the way up almost damn near to 30, I was a kid, and I was doing stupid kid stuff. Occasionally, I can still be accused of doing stupid kid stuff, although I try to limit that. But he's a very young man, and he's in my personal opinion, he's shown great poise for somebody as young as he is, and the restraint to know to stop shooting when there is no obvious immediate threat. He pulled that out of his own head. I don't think he's been through formal training, but to know when the absolute threat ends, that's when you have to stop shooting, and to pull that off, man, good on him.
Yeah, he was very articulate with the way he handled that. Nobody else got hurt, and he stopped, like you said, he stopped when he should have, and a couple times he could have probably been justified in shooting, and he didn't. He held back. Like the first time Gross Court came at him, it probably would have been justified, but he didn't shoot. It wasn't until the second time he came at him and pointed a gun that he shot. So I hope the jury recognizes this stuff.
I do as well. We got a couple more stories I want to get to. Let me pop this one on the screen here. And Diane's been commenting about this. The Ohio House approves looser gun laws. Well, that's the headline. In reality, what they've done is the House passed constitutional or permitless carry. This one actually could go all the way. Ohio could become number 22 in the rank of in number 22 in order of states that have approved permitless carry.
Yeah, and it's starting to get a little easier, to travel. We just had Texas, and did we have Tennessee?
Tennessee does have it, yes.
Yep. So I think Tennessee was the latest one. Texas was just prior to that. So Ohio, oh man, I mean it's getting better because, and I know you know as well. I mean, I travel up and down the East Coast several times a year. I mean, I'm always driving or flying. I just saw you in Texas not too long ago. So if you're driving, it's nearly impossible to carry a gun. I mean, you don't know, from state to state. You got to have your books and your notes and you have to know where to put the gun. Does it go in the trunk for this state? Can I have it in the console? Do I have to put it in the glove box, or can I have it on me? Does the magazine have to be removed? Does it have to be in a locked case? Every state is different. So a lot of people are getting their Utah permit. Everybody knows about the Utah permit, but the Florida permit, I just got my Florida permit as well. I have my New York unrestricted, but I also got Florida, and I would just recommend that people apply for the Florida. It was easy to get. and it opens up a ton of states. I'm open to probably about 40 states now.
Yep. And no matter if you've got just the permit from your home state or if you've got some of the most popular are Arizona, Utah, and Florida, as Dan mentioned, for the non-resident permits. But if you've got a whole wallet full of permits, you still need to know what is where and who accepts what. And the website I recommend is handgunlaw.us. They do an amazing job of keeping on top of everything, who accepts what, and what the individual laws are in each state. When I drove for 20 years, when I drove truck, you got to stay on top of things. What is legal may not be legal 5 miles down the road, and especially if you're talking Pennsylvania, even within the same state, when you talk about the Philadelphia area.
Well, there was a woman from Pennsylvania who was driving through Jersey with her concealed carry, and I wrote an article about her in AmmoLand, and I can't remember her name at the moment, but she was arrested and she spent some time in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Just for crossing over state lines with a concealed carry. She was totally legal in Pennsylvania, but Jersey is horrible. Jersey's one of the worst states to drive through. I mean, you need to have it bubble wrapped in locked container and have a SWAT team following you. It's just ridiculous that they, so you don't want to get caught at a rest stop in Jersey with your handgun on you. It's bad. So.
John says you do not. I believe what he's trying to say is you do not need a CCW from your home state in order to get a Florida one. I think that's true.
They never asked me about my home state permit.
Okay.
But what they do want is they want your basic handgun course certificate. So you do that, and then you go to your local place where they can do fingerprints. Sometimes it's the sheriff's department. In my county, the sheriff department sent me to a private organization that does fingerprints. And so you turn in your application, your basic permit course certificate, and your fingerprints, and a small photo of yourself, and pay the fee, and Florida sends you a permit. It's relatively easy. Not that we should have it at all. Let me just clarify. This shouldn't even be a thing.
Right.
We shouldn't have to do any of this crap. But at least while we do, Florida is probably the easiest.
Yeah. And Amanda said that Florida offers in-state and out-of-state permits. Christopher asks, what if your handgun is kept in the sleeper? Assuming you're referring to big trucks. And again, that is a state-to-state thing. And when I drove, I had a lockbox. I had 2 lockboxes I carried with me. And one lockbox was for the handgun, another lockbox was for the ammunition. And when I was in ABS, for example, when I went into New York, one handgun went into the lockbox for the handgun, the magazines got removed and went into the other lockbox. That they were kept separate. One was on the passenger side in an area inaccessible to the driver. It has to be that, and that's the key, especially with New York. It cannot be accessible to the driver. And so I kept that one on the passenger side down low, where when I was sitting in the driver's seat, I could not get to it in the lockbox. And the ammunition was kept in another lockbox. That one, if I were a contortionist, may have been able to reach. But yeah, I'm not a contortionist. So anyway, it's not enough just to be in the sleeper. It's depending on the state, and I know it's the case in New York. It's got to be locked, and the ammunition has to be separate. It's a debate whether the ammunition has to be in a locked box as well, but I did keep mine there.
Yeah, and New York, California, and I think maybe Massachusetts. Anyway, there's a handful of blue states that don't accept any other states' permits However, every state has to allow you travel through in one way or another, whether they create the crazy, pack it in the trunk, locked up, and all this sorts of stuff. Whatever they require, they have to provide you travel through.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and that gives us a great segue to go into this backup story I thought we'd get to if we had time, but it's dead on point to what we're talking about. And this is off of PrescottNews.com. Gosar, meaning Paul Gosar, sponsors legislation to protect Americans' right for self-defense and concealed carry. What this is basically is something we've all asked for, and that is national reciprocity of your state permit. It's a very well-written bill. Having said that, in the current House, it's got just about as much chance of passing as I do of getting to be the next Supreme Court justice.
Well, if this thing if they hold off until after the New York City case, after the Rittenhouse, I think the Rittenhouse and the New York City case are going to be two things that really set the mood for self-defense and state-to-state reciprocity, concealed carry, and stuff. So who knows? Maybe it's H.R. 38, I think it's called.
Yes.
It's what we want, state-to-state reciprocity, where you're just like your driver's license, your handgun permit works in every state. The downside is, if you come from a state, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm right on this, if you come from a state that doesn't have a permit, in other words, they're a constitutional carry state, like Vermont, for instance, and you don't actually have a physical permit from your state, you have nothing to show the other states. So I think what you'd have to do is, even if you come from a constitutional carry state, you're going to have to get a permit from your home state. So you have something that you can use as reciprocity.
When Arizona, and this had been the case for several states. When Arizona went constitutional carry, everybody thought, well, that's it, no more carry permits. Actually, the amount of carry permits they issued went up because of reciprocity. Arizona does have reciprocity with a lot of states in and of itself, and so they found that their permit issuance went up after constitutional carry went through. I think if national reciprocity happened, the same thing would go on, and that's especially if we get out of the Supreme Court, if we get the entire nation must go shall issue. I think concealed carry permits are just going to explode throughout the nation. The number issued is going to go way up. And now, of course, states like New Jersey and New York, we don't have the staffing permits. You can apply for your permit. It's going to take you 16 years to get it, but you can apply now, and it's all shall issue. We'll have to sue them into compliance, but I think you could be right, depending on what way the Supreme Court goes, but with the current makeup of the House, this bill, as it sits right now, has no chance. Not with Pelosi in charge.
Right. No, I agree. But what we can do is we can watch these cases right now, the New York City, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and they're also pushing this stupid HR 2377, which has got me a little twisted. I've been talking a lot about that. That's the national red flag law. So we're always fighting back and forth on this stuff. We might win one here and lose one there. It's just terrible that we have to spend so much time and effort and energy and money on defending our Second Amendment. But we must, and we can't stop. And that's just the way it is. So fingers crossed. And hopefully our elected employees will do the right thing.
Amen. And I love to hear you put it that way, our elected employees, because they are our employees. I just wish they'd remember that sometimes. Roderick has a great comment. He says, Gozar had sponsored H.R. 38 back in January. He's over 100. He's one of over 190 sponsors. That is true, and I got that out of this story. It's just that this article only hit today, and it was actually written by Paul Gozar. So yeah, it crossed my it got caught in my Newsnet today, and it was appropriate to what we were talking about. So I thought, yeah, hey, let's throw that in there. So let's see here. We've got just I'm not going to be. We're already past 30 minutes, and comments keep rolling in. I'm not going to be able to get them all in. I am sorry, but Dan, what? You've also got the Loaded Mike show. What have you been doing lately that you want people to pay attention to?
Thank you. The Good Gun Bad Guy book series always does well. I'll show you a copy of it. Good Gun Bad Guy. This is the first edition. It's a 3-book series, and it go to goodgunbadguy.com, and everybody seems to love it. I seem to have done well with that. Loaded Mike. It's at loadedmic.com, M-I-C, Loaded Mic, like microphone. We have a web show that is starting to gain some traction, and I think people are really starting to dig it. We are on a couple networks now. We're talking to another network, so I'm really happy about that. We're making a lot of changes. This weekend we're going to do some set changes, and my son is the producer. It's called The Loaded Mic. We talk about primarily Second Amendment-related issues, but we do get into topics of the day, political stuff. So loadedmic.com and goodgunbadguy.com is where you can find my stuff.
Very cool. Well, Dan, again, this time goes by too quickly. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Anytime, pal. See you next time.
All right. Folks, do please join us tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time. Tomorrow is Mike Piwowarski. Hopefully by tomorrow at this time we will have a verdict in the Rittenhouse case, and we'll of course bring you up to date on the news of the day. Thanks for watching, everybody.